This is Taking the Lead, a podcast for B2B tech professionals, leaders, and executives who want to learn from female icons in the tech industry. In each episode, host Christina Brady interviews women who are driving revenue for some of the most respected tech companies in the world. Are you ready to get inspired?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Taking the Lead. I am Christina Brady. I am the Chief Strategy Officer of Sales Assembly, and this episode is brought to you by Contract Book, Walnut, and our friends over at Motion. If you've never heard of Contract Book, they are a contract automation tool that makes managing contracts easy, efficient, and automated. They do that by enabling you to utilize the valuable data inside of your contracts to create powerful workflows and take the hassle completely out of contracts. If you'd like to learn more about them and their incredible service, visit contractbook.com. Walnut is the world's first sales experience platform. It gives B2B sales teams the ability to create interactive and customized sales demos without any of the coding involved. You can use Walnut to make your sales journey more customer-centric. You can embed an interactive product walkthrough on your website to increase conversions. You can even track how your leads interact with your demos and gain key insights. To learn more, visit walnut.io today. And finally, we could not produce this podcast without our partnership with the incredible team at Motion. And as of right now, we are officially a podcast that is a part of the Motion family. If you have not heard of us, we are a podcasting service for scrappy marketing teams in B2B tech. They launch podcasts just like this one. They help create the audio, video, and even written content out of every episode. If you want to learn more about the incredible work or even start your own show, visit us at motionagency.io. Now, that, of course, brings me to our incredible guest for today. Kate, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
This is going to be a wonderful conversation. I always feel really good about it when before we start recording, we dig into it and then we go, wait, hold on. We have to save this. So much of what you do today as the CEO of Strively is the bulk of our conversation. So in your own words, tell us a little bit about your journey growing up in tech and then what brought you to this radical and incredible work that you're doing today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I got my start in tech about 17 years ago or so. I got my first job. I moved to San Antonio, Texas to work for a company called Rackspace, which was like just, a little company. I worked on a folding table, in the top floor of a bank building, and there were like bats that would fly around and inside the building. It was very, very much startup life. And,
I've been in startup life and I have not had the bad experience.
well,
That is
you've never
wild
been
and I love it.
in San Antonio, Texas. That's kind of
You're right.
it's a part of the deal. So needless to say, we were a very scrappy startup. And, the reason I got the job was because my dad worked there. And so he moved down to San Antonio and he was like, you got to come work at this startup. It's so exciting. We're doing like really cool things, get your career started. And so I did it and had the opportunity to work at Rackspace for about 7, 8 years and got to go from startup to IPO and start my family there. And so that's sort of where I got my start in
And
tech.
so then where did you go from there? How did you decide where to go next?
So I really love the startup world. I like the excitement of it. I like the fluidity. I don't enjoy a lot of bureaucracy. I'm not really a rules kind of a girl. So I love startups. And so since being at Rackspace, I've been with 7 other companies, startup to private sale, startup to total failure a bunch of times. I learned a lot. And then sometime in 2019, I really started to get burnt out. I was always in a client facing role in either, customer success, strategic accounts, or working in a sales role in new business. And after 7 startups, I got tired. And I couldn't find any joy in my job anymore. And I just wasn't good at it because I was burnt out. And so I had a friend, my best friend, shout out to Ivy Hansen, say to me, why don't you go be of service to someone and see if that helps you? And it was the greatest advice I had ever gotten in my life at that moment. It completely changed the trajectory of my whole world.
Oh
So
my
I
gosh.
got an opportunity to volunteer at Soledad, which is a state prison here in California, and go in with Hartnell College to teach employment skills, how to write a resume, how to present yourself in an interview, how to talk about your background. And I'd never been into a prison before. I don't know anyone really that's been to prison, and I just didn't know what to expect. I thought I was gonna be walking into, like, what you see in the movies or on TV, and I was terrified. But what happened is I walked into this room, and I just recognized a room full of talent. The guys in this class were extremely bright, they were very curious, they asked me a ton of questions. They wanted to know how much money I made and how they could get jobs in tech, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, these guys would make great salespeople." And, not it's not gonna be me, but someone should start a nonprofit, and this would be a great idea. And then flash forward, to 2020, I had a lot of time on my hands. My startup immediately went under as soon as lockdown started, and my kids are at home doing distance learning, and I'm a single mom and trying to figure all that stuff out. And slowly over that summer, I just started building the program. And then we put our first group through in November, and sort of the rest is history.
My gosh. I can't there's like 6 areas I wanna dig in here, so get ready.
I'm ready.
Buckle up.
I am
Yeah,
ready.
buckle up. First question I have, and everything you just said, I mean, just down to this idea, 1, your friend is incredible. She deserves a shout out, but saying, "Try serving somebody." Now, I think that would mean a lot of things to a lot of people. What put you in the direction of going to provide support to folks who are incarcerated or in the prison system? Like, why did you pick that road at that time?
I think that I have always been the kind of person that wants to look out for the underdog, wants to look out for people that I think maybe have been taken advantage of. My mom is very passionate about helping people, and she really inspired me starting at a very young age to really care about people in general. And so I think there was just always something I wanted to do to work with people who were incarcerated, and I don't know where it came from specifically, but the opportunity happened at, like, this beautiful time. Everything just worked out, and I took advantage of it, and so I'm so glad that I did.
My gosh, how did you get past the intimidation? When you were telling the story about, you think of what you would know of a prison from what you would see in the movies or on a TV show. And, especially as, a single woman going in there likely by yourself. I mean, it is terrifying, right? Like as women, we are taught that that is not a safe place, and so you're going in there with your arms open to help.
Yeah.
How did you sort of put down the personal fear and overcome that to go into the room and do that?
Well, so I had the person that I went in with is someone I went to high school with, and so she's a professor, and so I had someone that I knew that kind of talked me through it and, assured me that everything was gonna be okay. And as I'm going through security, I met this little tiny woman. She had to be in her 70s or 80s, maybe 5 feet tall, tiny little thing, and she said she could see that I was really nervous, and she said, "You have nothing to worry about. I come here all the time. These guys would give their life to save me if something bad happened." And I just went with it.
Well,
But
I think it
but I should
should
say also, like, standing in front of this room full of like, I didn't really have any experience even teaching anything before. So I was doing all
right.
this
How did you
new
do that?
stuff. I was sweating, and I was just like I was very, very, very nervous.
How did you prepare for that? Like, how did you know what you were gonna go
Not
in and
very
do?
well. They, like they completely I didn't know what to expect, and I don't mean to say anything bad about what my expectation was, but I didn't expect them to completely blow my mind. Like, they were asking me really interesting questions, and I was so impressed with them. So, the activities that I brought to do were just like we didn't even do them. We just talked for an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so the talking for an hour, what I love is that you had this mindset while listening of going, "Oh my gosh, there's incredible people in this room that have incredible potential and can go on to do these amazing things." And I think you're the kind of person that gives people like that hope that the rest of their life can begin and it's not over. And I can't imagine what a gift that is. And the fact that programs like yours, I don't really know of any others. I don't know a lot in the space, but this idea of helping these folks to get a second chance and specifically break into tech, you had this thought, right? You had this thought of like, someone should start something to do this. When
Yeah.
did that someone become you?
I know exactly the moment that it happened. I was in my car, and it was sort of in the wake of the murder of George Floyd. And I was in my car, and I was very, very upset and frustrated, and I think like a lot of people thinking like, when is somebody going to do something about this? Like, why does this keep happening? And I can't affect change in that way, but I have this one thing I can do, and I think I can do it well. And so I chose the one thing that I knew I could get done and maybe be good at it and then just go after it. That's how it all kind of started.
I mean, I can imagine there had to be just even some analysis paralysis around one, the actual activism and the true advocacy that you're talking about is, I think, if the world had just a little bit more of that, we'd be in such a better place of people not saying like, "Well, someone should do something," and then you going, "It's me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do something that I've never done that's really scary because I think that I can make a difference."
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And so where did you start, right? So you
I
said,
did
"Okay, it's
not.
me."
Yeah, I did not do it alone. I didn't do it alone.
Yeah.
I reached out to Kathleen Nielsen. Shout out to Kathleen Nielsen.
Kathleen!
She's on our board. She's a very dear family friend. I've known her my entire life. A very accomplished woman and, has lots of experience in nonprofits and in startups. And so I approached her with this idea. This is what I'm thinking about doing. Do you think it's a good idea? What are your thoughts? And she just loved it. And she helped me build the whole thing from scratch. So
Now she had experience in doing this?
she had experience working in nonprofits
Yeah.
and she's had experience, building businesses. So we just applied what each of us knew and applied it to this program and just made it happen.
Okay, we're piecing together the story and it's beautiful. Okay, so you've got an incredible partner with a little bit of experience. You have a passion and drive and the right heart for doing tough work that other people aren't touching.
Yeah.
So then how do you decide about how this is all going to work? So tell us a little bit more about how does it work? How do you do exactly what you do?
So I know from working in tech my entire life, the easiest way to get into a tech company is through the SDR role. And it
That's right.
has the clearest paths for advancement. And it gives you this beautiful window into all different parts of the business. So if you don't have experience, you get exposure with marketing or events or finance or whatever. And then that gives you an ability or a person who maybe hasn't had formal life training around technology or even in school. It gives them exposure to all these different departments so that they can understand what maybe their interests and what they're good at. And so we chose the SDR role and that's what we train for. So we train for that entry level sales role.
Got you. And that's, I mean, that you're right. Like that's the point of entry. Do you ever, because I also want to kind of dive in and just figure out like, how do you get folks ready? When do you wind up contacting them? Is it once they're released? Do you start to actually contact these folks pre-release? Let's actually dive into that now. So how do you actually go about finding candidates for the program?
Yeah. Again, I don't think any part of what Strively does, we do on our own.
Yeah.
Everything we do is in partnership with either people in the tech industry or, support organizations. So we work with organizations like Defy Ventures, which has an entrepreneurship program that starts inside prison and then continues outside. Um, so we have partnership with them and we've got several graduates that have come through our program and are now working in tech now. So that foundation is really important. And, this role is really it's a difficult role and it takes a certain kind of someone. So, having those relationships and helping them understand what a good kind of persona is for this role is critical to the success of our candidates.
Absolutely. I mean, you're making an excellent point that while the SDR BDR role is a great and probably the easiest entry into tech, it's also a really hard job. And I find that there's more and more companies now that are saying, like, yeah, we want to hire BDRs with experience, but BDR, SDR by nature is not meant to be a permanent. I mean, like, if you've been a
Right.
BDR at the same level for 10 years, like, there's something wrong. Like, you're not meant to
Right.
be there forever. So how do you help to bridge those gaps? Especially because I would imagine a lot of the folks you're working with don't necessarily have that experience to do it. They're kind of starting from scratch.
I actually might disagree with you a little bit on that, in that all of our
Great.
candidates are I would say 95% of them are currently working. So they come out,
Okay.
our program is not exactly like, you've come out of prison, you need some time to decompress, organize your life, do your thing. But at the same time, you've got to make money to take care of yourself, take care of your family. And so most people are working full time when they come to us. And there's no specific timeline, but we've got people who have been out for 6 months or out for a year. They're working. So we've got people who have come from, selling gym memberships, selling cell phones, any kind of customer facing role is applicable and transferable for this job.
I love that. And I love the point that you made too, where, and I think it helps too to kind of connect when you're coming across these folks at what point of their journey. Cause it's not like they're coming out of the gates and you're waiting there like, all right, the program's kicking off. It's, you're coming out, you're reemerging into society, you're readjusting to what your life is going to look like. You have to make some money along the way. And the good thing is that there are a lot of transferable skills that you can do in any of the jobs that you mentioned that will translate over to an SDR or BDR type of role. So there's the finding the candidates. Now, have you ever found that there's difficulty amongst tech companies to accept this type of candidate? Like, do you ever run into those kinds of hurdles?
I mean, yes. Yeah, especially with some of the larger companies, there's a lot of bureaucracy. They've got a lot of things written into their hiring practices that are out of an overabundance amount of caution. And so, to be transparent, the place that we are finding the most success in getting our candidates hired are in that kind of mid-market to startup world where there's less bureaucracy. That comes with its own kind of challenges because, their processes aren't in place and they've got younger teams usually. And so finding the right type of company that has a lot of internal support is important. But, our candidates are paired with a mentor on day one of the program, and then that lasts through the first year of employment. So not all of our hiring partners are bearing the weight of making sure that people that are coming from diverse backgrounds are able to be successful. They're coming out of our program with like a very solid support system.
The mentorship element is incredible. How do you go about finding mentors to be a part of your program?
When I first started, I just started calling people that I worked with, colleagues, and it did not take me very long to find a group of mentors perfectly suited. And now we have so many mentors. There's so many options for continued learning, and the system, like the support system, just keeps growing and growing and getting more comprehensive.
My gosh. Why do you feel like these individuals make for excellent tech employees? Like it's very deliberate what you're doing. And if I'm a tech company hiring manager, HR professional, and maybe right now I'm loving your mission, but maybe I'm feeling kind of apprehensive about hiring somebody. Why should I not be apprehensive? Why is that archaic thinking?
I think there's two sides to that. The most important side is that the data does not support the fear that companies have in hiring. The data just doesn't support it. The data shows that candidates who are coming from some kind of with a felony background or some kind of criminal history, when they're given a chance to rebuild their life, they're the hardest working people, the most loyal. They're not, flipping around from company to company. They get their foot in the
Right.
door and then they're hanging on and doing the best that they possibly. So that's one side. The data just doesn't support that it's a risk. And then the other side is that, no one has been told no more than someone who's been in the US prison system. And so if you're sending an SDR out and they're going to make 100 phone calls a day and be told no 99 times, they don't care. They're like, okay, I'll just move on to the next one. Tenacity, grit, like that. Those are the qualities that our candidates are coming to the table with.
Oh my gosh. And it's got to be just preconceived notion and a lot of fear factor as to why anybody would be apprehensive, because it's likely apprehension without a reason. Like I don't know the numbers on this, but I would go so far as to say that I don't think there are a lot of companies in the space that are hiring folks with these kinds of backgrounds purely out of fear. But to your point, uh, the data that exists likely doesn't support that fear. It's just there,
The,
right? It's just there and it exists and it
the
perpetuates.
great news is that the tech community has really embraced what we're doing. And to be honest, I didn't know if this was going to work at all. I thought it would be, I shouldn't say this because I might jinx myself, but I thought it might
Knock
be,
on something.
I thought it might be harder to get people in than it actually is. I mean, I just got off the phone with one of our candidates and she hasn't even graduated yet and she just got a job offer.
Oh,
So we're at 95% placement, 100% retention, which is amazing.
I mean, the timing too. This is, if there was ever a time to try something new in this space, this is it. Because people are more open than they've ever been for some of these individual contributor roles where there's a
Right.
lot of unicorn offers happening right now. People are moving like crazy. There's these whispers behind doors of like the Great Recession is coming,
Yeah.
you know? And here you're presenting with highly talented, ambitious folks who want to work and who are grateful for the opportunity. And there's almost that tech elitism that isn't there, because we even see some of that amongst, some of the BDR and AE roles where we see some of that behavior, and it's hard to gauge how long you're going to have that employee for and what that loyalty looks like.
I have to say that, I get a lot of joy and delight knowing that our candidates share the same title and the same salary as people from a more traditional background. I love that. I do get a lot of joy from that.
I mean, everything that you're doing, I think, can spark joy.
Yeah.
It's like you're doing really hard, really, really meaningful work. And you said you just completed your first
No,
cohort.
no, no, no.
Oh,
We're on number 4.
woo.
Number 4.
Yes.
We have yeah, and so we're about to graduate another group on May 2nd of this year, and, we're already having people interview, and people are getting swooped up right away, and that's sort of what's been happening in every program we've run. Our candidates are getting hired before they even finish the program.
It's amazing. And how are you raising awareness with tech companies that this is an excellent source of candidates? How are you knocking on their door?
A lot of people are contacting us now, which is so great, and I think the first 2 years has been just building a name for ourselves and then, proving that our model works. And now that we have proved that and we've got candidates who are working at Demand Base, at Gong, at Umnitsa, at Pilot, we now we've got credibility. So it's making it a lot easier to place people because the people that I'm sending to our hiring partners, they know what they're getting because I've stress test them. And we've really we're making sure that we're sending, gold star candidates.
It's like amazing. It's a self-feeding machine.
Yeah.
And those are some incredible wins. I have to imagine that in 4 cohorts of doing this, especially during like just a really weird time in the
Yeah.
world, it's like as if things weren't weird enough. It's like we also have all these other things going on. What have been some of the things that have maybe surprised you, or maybe some tough lessons that you've had to learn along the way?
Oh my gosh. So many. I was so naive. And so I think most people who start any kind of business, like, if you know how hard it's gonna be, you're probably not gonna do it. I honestly I think because of where I come from working in tech, I know how much money is thrown around. People are spending $1,000 on lunch. I
Yeah.
certainly thought that people would just be like, "Here's a check. You're doing great work. Look at what you're doing. Here, have some money." It did not turn out that way, which sounds really like naive saying it out loud, but that's been, that's been a really the most difficult part of this is getting funding for our group. And so that's something that is a hard lesson, but it's also making me better than ever because I'm learning all these new skills that I never have had the opportunity to learn working in a traditional business environment.
Yeah. I mean, well, and I think raising money too, you're right. Like we talked earlier about just, unicorn job offers that are made. It does. It feels like every day on LinkedIn, I'm looking and I'm seeing another company that raised, millions or billions. And there's a lot around. There's a lot of money being thrown around. But I think being the person in the room pitching that, especially for what you're doing, that has to be difficult. Eventually, it seems like you had to figure it out. I mean, you got where you are. So what was the secret sauce?
I think that when someone comes to the conversation with authenticity and passion, it's the message is heard. I'm so passionate about what I'm doing and I believe in this program so much and what it means. And what it means to the people coming through, I can't lose.
I love that. I just wanted to take a moment of silence for just the fact that I think if every woman following her dream, wanting to do good things in the world and make a ripple that means something
Yeah.
would just take a moment and say, "I'm gonna do it because I can't
Yeah.
lose." Not like I won't. I'm incapable.
I
I
mean,
am
that's it. That
I am incapable of losing.
right.
Yeah. So, what's next? You're 4 cohorts in. Are there any changes you're making? How are you growing? What does the next couple of years look like now that this is totally taken off?
Yeah, I honestly I thought that we would just be kind of here in the Bay Area getting things started. This is my home. This is where I live and, obviously the tech community is here. Not all of them, but a large part are here. And I quickly found out that there are hiring companies all over the country. And so we're already nationwide. We've got people in Atlanta, New York, people in Arizona and Washington State, California. And so we're just growing so quickly and our hiring partners, the pool is growing larger. I think that, if we can get our hands on a little bit more investment from the tech community, we can do even more work. So,
Absolutely. Well, and remote work must have fueled the idea for ability to grow because the candidates for your program can likely be found anywhere. And then where the candidates are, there are companies to follow. And so I think, it is that. It is getting the brand message out and, doing things like this and making sure that people are aware of what's going on. Because I think you can help a
yeah.
lot of people and you can solve a lot of hiring woes that folks have for
Yes,
right now.
definitely. Definitely. And if tech companies are really passionate about diversity and inclusion, they'll consider working with candidates like ours. Or they should at least because it's the heart and soul of equity.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Diversity of race, culture, creed, thought. It's incredible. And there's a lot of companies, you and I both heard them where they say they don't know how to do that. I get contacted on a weekly basis by companies who are saying, we are looking for more women. We're looking for more BIPOC. We are looking for just more folks that even have just more of a diverse background. How do we find
Yes,
them?
right.
This is a great place to find them. It certainly exists.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah.
I love that. Well, we are coming down to the end of our conversation, and I feel like there's so many more places that I want to just dig into your thought process and how you work with them and what your curriculum looks like. And maybe we'll have to do a part two. But for now, have to get down to our rapid reveal
Yes.
if you are up for it.
I am
Okay,
ready.
let's do it. I can't wait. All right. So you have 5
Okay.
questions and you have 60 seconds or less for every question.
Okay. Yeah, I could do that.
All right, first one. What was your very first job?
Oh my gosh. My first job. So I have had a job since I was 14 years old. The day I turned 14, my parents were like, "There's the door. Here's how to fill out an application. Go get yourself a job." So I went to this toy store in town in Walnut Creek, California, and it was like over the holiday season, and I applied to be a gift wrapper. And so I started wrapping gifts. That was my first job, and then they kept me on and I stayed. And I worked in retail for years after that.
Solidarity as
Yeah.
a former retail worker, but
Yeah.
I will say wrapping gifts is I never want to do that again. When I was in college, I worked at Express clothing store. And during the holidays, we got to volunteer if we wanted to do the gift wrapping. And I thought that regular customers were difficult, but when you're wrapping their precious packages, it better be perfect and it better be flawless. And you have to do it very, very quickly. And I want to
Really,
say like 30
that is
minutes
my jam.
is it.
That is why I
Oh,
got the job. Best gift
I can't do
wrapper
it.
ever.
I mean, best gifts wrap. Your parents pushing you out the door being like, go find a job. Well, their daughter's a CEO now. So that did something. But man, I remember I was like 30 minutes in, but I've always been one of those people where like, I don't like to be chased. I can't have somebody like on my back. Like if you're chasing me, I'll just lay down and die. I'll just let you kill me because that's
Yeah.
better than being chased by you. So I admire your tenacity with the wrapping. Incredible.
Who's chasing you while wrapping gifts? That's what I wanna know.
Just that whole, like, you're standing there, you're watching me, I'm doing
Right.
it, I feel like I'm not going fast enough, I'd be like, just kill me, it's fine, I'd rather be dead than than do this right now."
Oh, man.
Alright. Now, speaking of irrational things, do you have any, as you would call it, irrational fears?
There's not, like, a ton that scares me,
I
to
feel
be
that.
honest. I don't
I love it.
I mean, I guess a little bit of heights, but that's not really irrational, you know?
Right. It would only be irrational if, like, non-big heights still like, if you're on the curb and you're like, "I don't wanna
Right.
fall, I could twist an ankle."
I can't really
Mhm.
think of an irrational fear.
Well, if you think of one or you're going through your day and suddenly you're like, "Woo, that scared me and that shouldn't have," then we can pick
I
this
guess
up.
snakes. Snakes are really scary to me, even, like, non-venomous.
Me
I
Ooh.
don't mess with snakes. Not into it.
Yeah, I don't as to me, a snake has always just been like a stick with a face, right? It's just a face, a moving face, and it freaks
Creepy.
me out
It's
too.
creepy.
Yeah.
It's not right.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. No,
It's
it's
not
not
right.
how do they do it? I don't know. Swallow things whole? I can't. Okay. What's your earliest childhood memory?
I think it was swimming. I don't really know the
Mm,
answer. I was thinking about that, and I don't know. I remember, though, as a kid, always being at the pool. I was on swim team. I was always, like, smelled like chlorine, my hair was green. I was always in, a pair of sweats and, like, a practice suit. And now, flash forward all these years later, that's how I'm only dressed today for this
for
conversation.
this
Normally, I would just be in a swimsuit and some sweats. So that's how I live my life, smelling like chlorine.
what was your stroke
A
on swim team? What was your
butterfly,
go-to?
actually.
So jealous. I wanted mine to be I would tell people it was butterfly, but then I was secretly really bad at butterfly.
I can't
I
do it
wanted to be
anymore. I
good.
can barely even get a lap in
I
butterfly.
get the right. But I'm jealous. Number 4, do you have any recurring dreams?
Yes, I have a recurring dream about being in Iceland. Being in
Oh,
Iceland at kind of dusk, lots of stars, lots of black rocks near the ocean. I don't know why.
oh my gosh. One day you're gonna be in the place in your dream and you're gonna be like, "It's
I
this.
know.
Why have I been dreaming about
I
this?"
know. So weird,
You
right?
have to tell me when that
I
happens too.
will.
There's so many things to follow up on. All right. And then number 5, our last one. Who was the last person to inspire you?
Hmm. It's probably my kids, and I know that's not one person, but I
Oh,
have
it's acceptable.
I have 3 children, and they all individually inspire me in such different ways, and their strength and empathy, it's very admirable.
How old are your little ones?
I have a about to be 25-year-old, an
Not
11-year-old,
so
and a
little.
10-year-old. Yeah, an
This
11-year-old and a
gap
10-year-old. Yeah.
this gap
Yeah.
is incredible. I
Yeah.
mean, my younger brother, he's my half brother, he's 15 years younger than me, but I don't wanna speak for your kids, but it must be incredible for them to watch their mother make such a difference in the world. You talked about your mother inspiring them, and I have to imagine that in a couple of years, maybe they're gonna be sitting on a very similar show, and someone's gonna ask them, "Who inspired you?" And they're gonna say, "My mom made a real difference in the world and gave a lot of people their second chance and gave a lot of people hope."
Yeah.
And so
I hope that that's what they say, and I hope that when they get older, they get involved, and I hope that one of them is inspired to keep it going when I am gone. And I appreciate all the kind words that you've said about how great we're doing. But to be honest, I get emotional talking about it. The people that
Yeah.
I am serving they've changed my life for the better in every way I don't even have words to describe. So in every way that I'm helping them, they're helping me 10 times more. So it's an honor.
Then that then you're the right person for this job. Because those of you who are just listening and you're not seeing it on video, when you find the work that speaks to your heart this way, it really is a two-way street. And they're lucky to have you. You're lucky to have them.
Yeah.
That's why this the way this is your thing.
That's what I
Because
can't lose.
right, you can't lose.
Can't lose.
Right. You can't it's not an option.
Right.
I can imagine after hearing this, there's gonna be a lot of people who right now are like, how do I get involved?
Mm.
How do I find out more? How do I hire somebody from them?
Yes.
For all those folks listening, which I would imagine a lot of our listeners are hiring managers who were like, just tell us how to find them.
Yes.
How do they find you? How do they get involved? What are the ways?
Well, of course, go and visit our website, strively.org. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Follow Strively on LinkedIn. Open your hearts, open your wallets. There's a big donate button on the Strively website. Every dollar counts. Take a minute and go and look at some of our candidate stories and get to know people and, just reach out to me and let's get some people working.
Incredible. Well, Kate, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story and
Thank
your
you.
company and your vision and a little bit of your heart with us.
Thank you for
And to
having
everyone
me.
else, of course, and to everybody else, we will see you next time on Taking the Lead.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Taking the Lead. If you're looking for more inspiring stories from women leaders in B2B tech, then visit us at motionagency.io/takingthelead.